everyone. So these are a series of videos just to introduce you all to our food systems community a little bit more, both faculty and students. My name is Teresa Mares, and I'm an associate professor of anthropology at the University of Vermont and also the associate director of food systems. And as you'll hear, I do work a little bit on migration and labor within the food system.
And my name is Luis. I'm a PhD candidate in food systems. I'm gonna graduate soon this fall, and I work with Meredith Niles and also the Agroecology and Livelihoods Collaborative. And Teresa, how are you?
I'm doing great, Luis. How are you? You are in front of a beautiful beach scene.
Yeah, this is all the pictures that I'm taking while I'm here in Puerto Rico finishing my dissertation. And I wanna ask you, what brought you to UVM?
So I've been at UVM now basically exactly 10 years ago. I moved to Burlington, to the Burlington area. And when I got to UVM, there was a big concentrated effort of hiring food systems faculty across campus. And so the year that I came in, I think there were 9 or 10 food systems faculty that were hired across different departments and an extension as well. I came after a year of being a postdoc at Ohio State and after finishing my PhD in 2010 at the University of Washington. And I think one of the biggest things is they were looking for an anthropologist looking at food systems issues. And I was looking to be at a public institution. I was really excited about being in a university that was public and is public, and looking for a place that had a really integrated anthropology department that includes all the different subfields of anthropology. So I also, in an interesting way, I feel like Vermont is really like a combination of where I grew up in Colorado and Seattle in terms of sort of the environment and the culture, and just felt and still feel like it's a really good fit for my broader interests. So yeah. What about you? What brought you to UVM?
I think I would say the program mostly. I remember because I was finishing my master's at the University of Puerto Rico, and I've been working on extension, the Department of Agriculture. I wanted to pursue a PhD, and I was having trouble finding the program. And I remember reading through articles, and I found this journal, the Graduate Journal of Food Studies, because I was following a student who was blogging about how to find a program in food studies. And I went into that to the journal to read her article, and there was an article. It was alternative food systems, and I don't remember much about the article, but they used a mixed methods approach, and it was looking more at those social components of the farmers. And when I read the bio of that person, it said that they were a graduate student at the University of Vermont Food Systems program, and from there I jumped and searched because I didn't know nothing much about UVM over Vermont, and I read through the program, and I really liked that it incorporated the social components, but also the natural science, physical science components. It was very interdisciplinary because much of the programs that I was finding on food systems were either very much into the social science or very much into the physical natural science. So this one, it integrated both, and I do not regret my choice.
That's great to hear. As being a part of your committee, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, and it's something like for your position, they wrote it exactly for you. So I hope that I can stay with our position now that I'm graduating. And so on that aspect of the program, what do you teach in the program, and what do you like most about the classes that you teach?
Yeah, so I teach, right now I'm teaching one of the core courses for the program, the FS 345 Food Systems, Society and Policy. That's a class that I've taught now. I think it's the third year that I'm teaching it. So that is a seminar for all of the incoming food system students, both master's and PhD students. And it's paired with another class that is the second semester, which is Food Systems Science and Policy. And so what we focus on in that class, and what I really like about that class, is that we really sort of explicitly center capitalism as a major organizing framework for our food system. And we look at how that came to be and how that structures power in the food system, and anything from social movements in food to looking at intersectionality and race dynamics in the food system, labor dimensions of it. It's a really fun class to teach. I really enjoy teaching that. And then within anthropology, I teach other food related classes, food and labor class, a food and gender class, and then an introduction to food and culture. And then I somehow managed to sneak food into all of my other classes. My Latinos in the US class and my introduction to cultural anthropology class always seem to touch upon food systems, but within the program has been primarily the 345. And then I've taught a couple of travel study classes with Amy Trubeck, one class that was Vermont's rural food system, from milk to maple. And then we also collaborated on a class in Oaxaca, Mexico for students 1 year. So hopefully we get to reintroduce some of those as travel.
Yeah. Are you cooking in 345? Because I remember that was my favorite part.
Yeah, we're not, unfortunately, this time. We are in the kitchen lab this year, but hopefully we get back in there. We usually at least have lunch together, even if we don't cook together.
Yeah, that's something fun about food systems. There's always food involved.
Yeah, definitely. So what's your research interest? Can you tell us a little bit about what you research on and what your focus is on and what you hope to do based on that research?
Yeah, so broadly, the big umbrella, I'm very interested in issues that intersect food systems, natural hazards, and public policy mainly. I'm very interested to understand the extent to which social and environmental components within a society or geographical area interconnect and relate to individual outcomes, especially regarding food security, adoption of adaptation practices, or policies that are being set, and I'm putting that into practice within my dissertation, which looks at Puerto Rican farmers' food security and adaptation outcomes in light of the recovery from Hurricane Maria to better understand drivers and barriers for strengthening adaptive capacity, meaning those sets of resources and abilities that people have access to prepare for, cope with, respond, and recover from the impacts of natural hazards. So it's research that is very close to my heart, research that I did not decide that I was gonna do when I came to UVM, but I'm very I strive to do those applied and collaborative participatory research projects that generate information on overlooked issues, especially here in Puerto Rico and the Caribbean.
Yeah, and I can say for all of you watching this that being a member of Luis's committee has been such a treat. And I think the way that he is so committed to this project, and not just the research, but the broader implications of his research has been really inspiring. And I can't wait to read that dissertation when it's all.
Oh no, I'm blushing. That's something fun about food system, where you can have anthropologists, geographers, different scientists from different disciplines and background in one's community. And I think, as I have talked with you regarding my project, that we have looked more at that structural vulnerability and looking more to those societal aspects that often are not taken into account in these types of research.
Yeah, no, I'm really, really looking forward to reading it.
Yeah, well, you read it, you're gonna read it soon. And what about you? Because you're doing research too. What is the coolest project you're working on?
Yeah, so I think the one that's kind of taking most of my time right now, there's another one that should be taking more time, but the one that I'll talk about is I'm currently co-authoring a book with my colleague Laura Ann Minkoff-Stern, who's a food geographer at Syracuse. And both of us have taught classes on food and labor for many years and realized that there's really not a great single unifying course book for classes like that. And so we are co-writing a book on labor in the food system. And that is something that we're looking at, not just labor outside of the home, within sort of production and distribution and restaurant work, but also within the home. And so we're kind of the main goal of the book is to trace labor in the food system, through the various sectors of production, but also what happens to food inside the home. And also using that to illustrate really important sort of political economic concepts. So that currently, as of right now, the book proposal is under review, and we'll be working on that over the course of the year, not necessarily based on original research, but on building upon both of our projects that we've done with farm workers and with other food workers over the past many years. So I'm really excited to see it come together. And it's a very different process of co-authoring a book like that versus writing your own book, which, you know, that was a couple years ago for me. So
yeah. Well, very recently.
Yeah,
well.
2 years ago. Yeah, came out 2 years ago. So Luis, how do you feel like the food systems program is preparing you to meet your goals?
Well, I think going back to that, to the why I chose the program, and I think it's providing that space or that platform to harness skills from different disciplines. And I think that what we call the transdisciplinary aspect of our program, to understanding different language that come from those different disciplines in a way that allow us to blur those disciplinary barriers that often do not allow us to collaborate or to investigate issues in a broader sense that incorporate aspects from other disciplines and not be much narrow. So I think that giving me that mixed methods component, and also given that my background was in biology, food science, and at UVM having the opportunity to endeavor more in anthropology, geography, or other social sciences, I think has equipped me in a way to be some sort of, I don't know, I feel like a unicorn. So I think that's something that we talk with the other food systems students, and that I am seeing doors opening in different spaces because, you know, that we're like a basket full of different things, and I think it provides us to build bridges in areas that were not available. Or so I think I'm very excited to what comes ahead in graduating.
Cool.
And well, there's always the positive things, but there's the other side. So what are the most challenging part of, I don't know, being a professor or a researcher in food systems and teaching, researching, especially in this pandemic times, and you know, the parts that we don't like much.
Yeah, I think for me, I think the biggest challenge is just balance. I think because, you know, my job description as a faculty member is, you know, about 40% research, 40% teaching, and then 20% advising and service. It's like, how do you balance that and still maintain, you know, a really up-to-date view of your research area? How do you keep up with all those recent articles and still, you know, try to be a really great teacher? I think that for me, it's often just like how much time do you have in the day? That's one of the biggest challenges, and then how do you also balance that with the family life? And I think that that's probably something that all professors would say is just balancing the different dimensions of the work, because I think for me, one of the things that I like the most about it is the flexibility. And if I wake up one day and I feel like I'm slogging through writing and I'm not doing so well, there's always a different kind of work I can do, whether it's like looking at my syllabus or reading something. So that flexibility and the varied nature of the job is really nice, but then it's also how do you balance all those different dimensions? And having a small toddler has put really strong brackets around my workday. And so I actually feel like I've gotten better at some of that because I have a small kid, but yeah, it never gets totally easy, I say. So
yeah, I was talking with Meredith around that the percentage of times, because often when you do this type of work or research or working with things that are most of them outside your control, just establishing that structure sometimes is a little complex.
yeah, definitely. So you've kind of touched on this before. You've talked a little bit about, you know, your appreciation of sort of a transdisciplinary approach, but what do you think is the best part of the food systems graduate program?
Well, I think one thing that I have found very positive of this program, which is also similar to why I chose my master's program, which was similar to how the food systems program is built at UVM, is this sort of cloud. Because we're not like a department, or I don't know. People in the faculty don't have a degree in food systems, so that's something very, very new. And I think having that that characteristic where you have people from different parts of the university, I think that's for me has been the most positive, because
Mhm.
you can meet many people across campus, work with people from different departments, take classes from different departments, and I just feel all over the place.
Yeah,
Different from, like, if I were doing like a biology PhD where I'd
yeah.
be like in the lab or in my department. So having that opportunity and having people within food systems that are part of the Agroecology and Livelihoods Collaborative, the GON Institute, and many other sectors within campus where you can collaborate, but also build ties of friendship with, I think has been the most positive, the thing that I have most enjoyed
Mhm.
about this program.
Well, that's
Yeah, and what would you say is the best part of the food systems program or UVM as a whole?
I mean, I think I'll agree with the transdisciplinary piece of it. I think I was thinking back to a faculty meeting, and I was sitting in between um, Tyler Doggett, who teaches ethics in the food system and really looks at food and ethics from this very abstract way, very different than how I look at sort of ethics in the food system. And then I was sitting in between him and John Barlow, is a animal science.
Mm-hmm.
He really looks at dairy cows primarily, and a very different way that I look at dairy, which is primarily through a labor lens. And I think that illustrates, just to me, like I think there's a number of programs that sort of talk the talk of transdisciplinarity, but then in the actual curriculum or the actual training of students, maybe that falls out a little bit. And I feel like, because our program is that sort of one in the cloud, right? We don't have a firm, center in the university other than, Alice in Spain in our office, right?
Uh-huh.
We really have and I think because UVM is a smaller public university, we know each other really well. The faculty meetings and the students are close community, and I think whether it's being part of a graduate student exam where I'm like learning about soil science as I'm also learning about ecological systems or whatever it is, that I've learned a ton through being in the program, that I never would have been just being affiliated with a disciplinary program myself. So.
Yeah, I relate to that. And I think the nature of the program, but also the couple with UVM being small, Vermont being small, but very strong relationships across the state, and UVM being a land grant institution, and not having those very strong disciplinary barriers, I think it provides space for students to do applied work or participate or engage in other participatory projects and have agency on delineating their own project. I feel like I have had that for my dissertation, which and I really enjoy that creative process and seeing all the other students do so, and I think it provides that space for one to really enjoy the the, the dissertation
Yeah.
or doing the dissertation.
Yeah, cool.
And
So what advice would you tell future students, for students that might be considering this program? What advice would you give them, or maybe even students that have just joined the program?
well, there's a ton of things, but I would say, and I think it indistintivamente, how do I say that in English? Indistinctively?
Yeah.
Whether, no, notwithstanding which program you are, university, I think the building community, I think wherever you go, building, being open to build and create community, because that takes energy and effort. It's not something that happens without you putting some of your part there. I think that's the first thing that one has to do when starting graduate school, moving to a new place. And I think also just trying to know the faculty, be everywhere that you can be, just go to all the activities, the seminars, there's a conference, go. So it's taking advantage of this opportunity and privilege of being part of this transdisciplinary program that not many people have access to, that I would say that you have the access to it, you're here, take advantage of it, of everything, and enjoy it.
Thanks, Luis. Luis has been such a great social coordinator for our program, and we've really
Oh,
missed him.
that's the other advice. Don't be afraid of asking for money for parties
Yeah,
and dinners.
yeah, I think with pandemic and with Luis being in Puerto Rico, where there have been fewer parties and fewer dinners, but hopefully that will
Yeah.
get back to normal. Well, thanks, Luis, for your time and having a conversation, and thanks to all of you who are watching this or viewing this wherever you may have found it. If you have any other questions about the program or about faculty interest, you can always reach out to me as the associate director. I'm sure I'll volunteer Luis. He's more than happy usually.
Oh, always. And thank you,
with
Teresa, for the conversation and the questions, and those of you watching this interview. If you want to know a little bit more, I always tell myself, that's another thing I have to tell students: tell yourself, don't be afraid. You can go to luisalexis.com, and there's everything from my research, but I also have a lot of essays on grad school life and research and science communication and outreach. So yeah, take a look at that.
Great. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.